Magnificent Seven making a move again. So guys, let's jump in and talk about a key move from another top Magnificent Seven company. This is Kevin. I hope you're having a great weekend. I wanted to share this article with you because it may have slipped through the cracks, and I want to bring it back and talk about the importance and how this is a key strategic shift for Nvidia. So you can see on the screen here that Nvidia has hired its first chief financial officer. And as I mentioned, this may not be the sexiest move for Nvidia. You may think it's not the sexiest move. It may, in fact, you may feel it's a bit boring. The market kind of reacted that way as well. But I'm going to make a case that this is one of the most important hires that a tech company can make. And in fact, Google made this same exact hire at the same time in their life cycle, in their company life cycle, when they elevated Lorraine Toohill to a market leadership position, and it changed everything for Google. Nvidia is on that path as well, and I'm going to make the case in the video today. So I hope you stay to the end to see the side-by-side comparison. Guys, if you like this type of content, give me a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting out a video every day, very similar, talking about some of the top trends and the insights in the market. I'd love to get your commitment and your support. Why don't you go ahead and share this link with your friends so we can start to build a community together. I'm not a financial advisor, as I mentioned, but I've spent 30 years investing. I've spent over 30 years as a senior leader in sales and marketing. I've definitely been around the block or two and learned some key insights. And I want to bring those insights to you. That's the whole purpose of my channel, is how do I take my kind of insights and thinking from what's happening in the market today, share it with all of you, so then you can turn that into more value for yourself. You take that education or those insights, make better decisions as an investor, and hopefully build more wealth for yourself and your families. So the video today, I'm going to cover two things. One is, why is this move important for us? Why does it matter? Why is it important as an investor? And then two, how does this compare to what Google did at the same time in their life cycle? So let's jump in. First and foremost, what does this mean? Why does it matter? What this means and what signal this is sending to the market is Nvidia is formalizing their marketing strategy. They're going to centralize all of their marketing and communication under one leader. You see her on the screen here. Her name is Allison Wagenfeld. I'll jump into her background in a moment. She's going to report directly into Jensen. Why is that different? In the past, Nvidia divided up their marketing efforts across multiple executives, and it worked well for the company when they wanted to be seen as a hardware first pioneer. But Nvidia is starting to recognize that there is a strategic shift that's needed. They need to shift away from being seen just as a tech-centric leader into more of a brand and market-facing strategic partner. So Nvidia will continue to compete, as you know, on AI chips, but they're finding themselves needing more and more to compete in other areas, such as AI solutions. They need to compete in platforms and emerging software stacks. And in those areas, it's going to be critically important that Allison, shapes the right customer perceptions ultimately, and she is able to position the company as a strategic partner. I'm going to drive in now and just show you some of her background, because Allison's biggest job, quite honestly, guys, is she needs to shift the company as being seen as a top AI provider, a top AI chip provider, to a strategic kind of platform partner. And I think she's well suited for this. Just look at her experience. She's been at Google. I told you earlier, Nvidia is taking a page out of the Google playbook. She was a chief marketing officer there. She led a number of different marketing efforts for them, including Google Cloud, Google Workplace, Google Maps. In fact, she started over 10 years ago and took Google Cloud from a promising startup to a division that has an annual $60 billion run rate. She is positioned. I think she's going to do a very similar approach at Nvidia. There's another reason why I think it's important why Jensen made this hire, and I'm going to drive down a little further in the article to show you that. There was a study that was done, was a longitudinal study by Interbrand that looked at the most recognizable brands, global brands for that matter. And they asked people to rank them based on revenue, presence, and awareness. You can see the most recognizable brands in 2025 were Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, many of the Magnificent Seven. But Nvidia fell short of that. They fell to number 15 on the list. They are just not as embedded and as ubiquitous as these other companies are in all of our lives. And they're not an everyday household name. I think part of that is because they're very technical. Allison's job will be to shift, like I said, her job will be to shift customers' perceptions, move the company away from this very tech focused and help a different set of customers. You think about, she's going to need to position Nvidia's platform on all the software and other products that they have, similar to what happened with Google, to Fortune 500, C-suite executives, big decision makers and enterprise, for they can see Nvidia as a true partner. But let's jump back and just take a look at how did the market react to the news. So honestly, I'm going to just look over the Magnificent Seven. I'll pull up Nvidia. You can see it was kind of lackluster overall. I'm just going to pull up their performance of the last 5 days. You could say it was actually neutral to negative. So there was a 2% change for Nvidia on the week overall. You can see 2.5. The investors in general, I think, were reacting neutral to it because they just feel that Nvidia doesn't need to invest in marketing and brand initiatives, that they should keep their focus on near-term financials. Certainly can understand that there is a ton of opportunity in the marketplace. But what I want to do now is take a shift and show you how Nvidia compares to Google at the same time in their life cycle. And hopefully you can see that Nvidia is positioning themselves for the long term. They're really setting themselves up to transform this company, to have a huge strategic shift in the way they're seen and the way they will be embedded into each and one of our everyday lives. So why don't we jump into those slides right now, and I'll show you that, and you may be surprised. So let's jump over and take a look at how these slides compare. You can see on your screen here, it's Google's turning point versus Nvidia's current moment. Like I said, if you think back into the mid 2000s, early 2010s, Google was at the same point. You can see they had dominance in search, right? They had explosive revenue growth. They had a multitude of products that were very fragmented and were not connected. And those are products across, Gmail, YouTube, Android, many others. They elevated their marketing leader. They built a cohesive strategy, and it changed Google forever. Nvidia is in the same way. They have dominance in GPU. They've had explosive growth in revenue. They have a multitude of products, as you know. They have complexity in that area, and now they've hired a market leader as well. If you look at their evolution, what you see on the screen, from what Google did, and I would think Nvidia is going to do and try to follow the same path with a Google hire, is they ultimately want to shift. Google shifted from being known as the best search engine to being known as the infrastructure of internet and information. Nvidia, same path. I think they have decided and made a clear signal that they're ready for a strategic shift, where they want to move from being known as best AI chips to being known as the infrastructure of artificial intelligence. Like I said in the beginning, guys, bottom line, this is a fantastic move for Nvidia, in my opinion. I think it's going to create a ton of long-term value, open up opportunities to them for many different customers. And I think the bottom line, it's a huge strategic evolution for the company. It sends a clear signal that Nvidia is ready to shift, have a strategic focus in their playbook. They want to move from being known as the world's leading GPU maker to being the full platform and ecosystem leader. They want to move from technical storytelling to strategic brand positioning. And they want to move from hardware focus to enterprise and global focus. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the content. Have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.